I sat at grandfather's will reading, hoping for reconciliation with my parents after years of tension. They always favored my sister, Alicia. Grandfather was the only family member who believed in me. As the lawyer opened the envelope, I noticed my parents smirk. Mother gave my sister a celebratory shoulder squeeze. When the lawyer announced $6.9 million for my sister versus $1 for me, Mother said cruelly, "Go earn your own. Some kids just do not measure up." But grandfather left a final letter that changes everything. Before continuing with this story, let me know where you are watching from. Drop a like and subscribe if you have ever felt underestimated by your own family. My name is Creighton Walker, a 32-year-old artist living in a cramped studio apartment in Portland. The kind of place where you can cook dinner, watch television, and sleep without ever moving more than 10 feet. Not exactly the lifestyle my investment banker parents had envisioned for their son. Art has been my passion since I could hold a crayon. I still remember my first real painting set a gift from my grandfather on my 10th birthday. My parents had gotten me stocks, actual stock certificates for a 10-year-old. Grandfather saw what they could not or would not see, the spark in my eyes whenever I created something new. "You have a gift, Creighton," he would tell me while my parents were busy attending another of my sister Alicia's academic award ceremonies. "Never let anyone convince you it is not valuable." My sister followed the path my parents laid out with precision. Private school, Ivy League education, MBA, and straight into a prestigious financial firm. I chose art school, much to my parents' horror. They called it throwing my life away. The day I announced my college choice was the last time my father spoke to me directly for 3 years. Grandfather remained my champion. He visited my first gallery showing while my parents sent a generic congratulations text. He called weekly to check on me, genuinely interested in my creative process. When the gallery that featured my work closed last month, he was the one who listened to my fears about the future. Now, with rent due and my supplies running low, I had been considering the unthinkable, a corporate job, something stable that would pay the bills while I painted on weekends. The very compromise my parents had suggested for years. The thought made my stomach churn, selling my time to buy back small fragments for my passion. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was working on a landscape trying to capture the perfect golden light filtering through Douglas firs. My phone buzzed against the paint-stained table. "Unknown number, Mr. Walker," a formal voice asked. "I am sorry to inform you that your grandfather, Harold Walker, passed away this morning." The brush slipped from my fingers, splattering yellow across the canvas. My grandfather gone. The one person who believed in me without conditions or expectations. "There will be a service this Friday," the voice continued. "His attorney, Mr. Jacobson, asked me to ensure you were notified." I thanked them mechanically, mind already filling with memories. Grandfather teaching me to mix colors, his gentle criticism that helped me improve, his unwavering faith that I would find my way. My phone rang again almost immediately. My mother. "Creighton," she said, all business, no emotion. "I assume you have heard about your grandfather." "Yes, just now. The service will be at Brighton Funeral Home. 11 in the morning. Please wear appropriate attire." The emphasis on appropriate stung, as if I would disrespect my grandfather by dressing like the artist I am. "I will be there," I promised. "Your sister is flying in tonight. She has taken personal leave from Morgan Stanley. They value her so much they approved it immediately." The familiar comparison, subtle but sharp. After my mother hung up, my sister called, her tone softer, almost sympathetic. "Hey, Creighton, how are you holding up?" "I am processing it," I admitted. "I know you were close to Grandpa," she said. "More than any of us." A pause. "Do you need anything, money for a plane ticket?" There it was. The assumption I could not afford to attend. "I live in Portland now, Alicia. I can manage a cross-town trip." "Right, sorry. I forget where you are sometimes. Must be nice not having to travel for these things." Another subtle dig. As if my life lacked importance because it did not involve constant business flights. "Will James be coming with you?" I asked about her husband, trying to shift the conversation. "Of course. He is arranging the jet now." Casual mention of her private transportation. Another reminder of our different worlds. Despite the tension, I felt determined to honor grandfather properly. He deserved that much from me. The funeral service was everything you would expect for a man of grandfather's wealth and social position. Gleaming wood pews, flower arrangements taller than me, and a guest list that included state senators and company presidents. I arrived early, hoping to have a quiet moment alone. Instead, I found my parents already there directing staff about minute details of the service. My mother spotted me first. Creighton, she acknowledged with a nod, eyes scanning my black suit. It was my only suit purchased for my college graduation and now slightly too tight across the shoulders. At least you are on time. My father merely glanced at me before continuing his conversation with the funeral director. Their dismissal was so practiced it barely hurt anymore. Almost. Alicia arrived with her husband James in a flurry of expensive perfume and designer morning clothes. She air-kissed my cheek, careful not to smudge her makeup. "You look well," she lied politely. "Have you lost weight?" The implication that I needed to. The service began, and I watched as my parents transformed into grieving family members for the audience. My mother dabbed at dry eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. My father spoke eloquently about family legacy and values. Neither mentioned how rarely they had visited grandfather in recent years. During the reception, they paraded Alicia around, like a prize show dog. "Our daughter just made junior partner," my father told the mayor. "Youngest in the firm's history." I stood alone near a window watching rain streak the glass until I noticed someone beside me. A tall man with silver hair and kind eyes. "You must be Creighton," he said, offering his hand. "I am Edward Jacobson, your grandfather's attorney." "Nice to meet you," I responded automatically. "Harold spoke of you often," he continued, watching me with unusual intensity. "He was quite proud of your artistic accomplishments." Before I could respond, my mother materialized, taking Mr. Jacobson by the elbow. "Edward, there you are. Senator Wilson was just asking about the development project." As they walked away, she shot me a look over her shoulder. A look that said, "Important people are not for you." Later, as guests were leaving, my mother approached me again. For a moment, I thought she might offer comfort or connection. "The will reading is next Tuesday," she said instead. 10 in the morning at your grandfather's home. Do not be late." I returned to my apartment feeling drained. The contrast between the elegant funeral and my shabby living space felt particularly stark. Paint tubes scattered across a folding table, canvases stacked against walls, a mattress on the floor that I had been meaning to buy a frame for when I could afford it. On my door was a notice, "Final warning before eviction proceedings." Rent was now 2 weeks late. The commission from my last sold piece had gone to utilities and food. I had nothing left for the landlord. I slumped onto my one good chair. Grandfather would have helped if I had asked, but I never asked. I wanted to make it on my own terms, prove to everyone, including myself, that my choice had value. Now I wondered if my parents had been right all along. My phone rang. It was Marcus, owner of a small gallery that sometimes displayed my work. "Creighton, good news. I have a client looking for a custom piece. Corporate lobby needs something that screams creative but not controversial. Pays $3,000. My heart leapt. That would be amazing. When do they need it? 3 weeks. Tight timeline. Can you handle it? Absolutely, I promised, already mentally calculating how to split the money between rent supplies and maybe a real bed frame. The next morning I woke to a call from Alicia. "Just checking in," she said. "James and I were talking, and we have some investment opportunities that might be suitable for someone in your situation. Low risk, modest returns. Nothing fancy, but better than whatever savings account you are using." The assumption that I had savings was almost laughable. "Thanks, but I am actually doing fine," I lied. "Really? Because Mom mentioned your gallery closed. Must be hard finding steady income in your field." "I have projects lined up," I said, thinking of the single commission from Marcus. "Well, if you change your mind." "Oh, and Mom wanted me to remind you about proper attire for the will reading. Apparently last time you visited grandfather, you were wearing paint-stained jeans." After we hung up, I stared at my nearly empty refrigerator. Even in death, grandfather was causing my parents to focus on me, if only to criticize. Later that day, my mother called directly. "Creighton, about the will reading. Your grandfather was very traditional about these matters. A proper suit would show respect." "I will wear my suit, Mother. The black one from the funeral. Perhaps you could purchase something more current. Your sister mentioned she could help you afford something appropriate. I closed my eyes, counting silently before responding. My suit is fine. Well, it is your choice, but appearances matter in our circle. Our circle. As if I had ever been included in their world of wealth and status. As I hung up, I remembered grandfather's last visit to my studio 3 months ago. He had examined my latest work with genuine interest, asking questions about technique and inspiration. Before leaving, he had gripped my shoulder firmly. True value is not always obvious, Creighton, he said cryptically. Remember that when the world tries to assign you a price tag. At the time, I thought he was referring to my art. Now I wondered if he had meant something else entirely. The morning of the will reading dawned gray and drizzly. Perfect Portland weather for what promised to be an uncomfortable family reunion. I put on my one suit, noticing the slight fraying at the cuffs. Nothing to be done about it now. I took the bus across town, watching the neighborhoods transform from artistic but struggling to manicured and exclusive. Grandfather's house stood on a hill, overlooking the city, 3 stories of brick and dignity surrounded by century-old oaks. The housekeeper answered my knock, giving me a sympathetic smile. She had always been kind to me during my visits. They are in the study, Mr. Creighton. Can I bring you anything? No, thank you, Martha. I am fine. I straightened my tie and walked down the familiar hallway past framed family photos where I appeared with decreasing frequency over the years. I paused at one image that caught my eye. A simple drawing in a carved frame clearly done by a child. My child self. A colorful rendering of grandfather and me painting together by a lake. I had forgotten making it, but grandfather had kept it prominently displayed among the family portraits. When I entered the study, my parents and sister were already seated in the leather chairs arranged before grandfather's massive oak desk. Mr. Jacobson stood behind it arranging papers. You are cutting it close, my father said without looking up from his phone. My sister, dressed in what looked like a $4,000 black designer dress, gave me a quick wave. We saved you a seat, she said, indicating the chair furthest from the desk. My mother assessed me with a critical eye. At least you are finally dressing appropriately, she said, as if proper clothing was the most significant character trait one could possess. Mr. Jacobson cleared his throat. Now that everyone is present, we can begin. Harold was very specific about the procedure for today. I settled into the chair, taking in the familiar room. This study had been my safe haven during childhood visits. Grandfather would let me read for hours in the window seat while he worked. Later, he set up an easel in the corner so I could paint while he handled business matters. The room still smelled of his pipe tobacco and old books. First, Mr. Jacobson began. There are several personal items Harold wished to distribute specifically. He proceeded through a list of family heirlooms and mementos. My father received grandfather's military medals and collection of rare coins. My mother got grandmother's jewelry and several valuable antique pieces of furniture. Alicia was given grandfather's collection of first edition books and the vacation property in Aspen to Creighton Mr. Jacobson continued. Harold leaves his personal set of paintbrushes, his art collection, and the contents of the studio on the 3rd floor. My mother made a small noise. Those old brushes. The art studio is just a hobby room with some supplies. Mr. Jacobson gave her a measured look before continuing. Now to the financial aspects of the will. I noticed my parents sit straighter, exchanging a small glance. My sister adjusted her watch, an unconscious gesture she made when anticipating good news. With respect to Harold Walker's investment portfolio, property holdings, and liquid assets, totaling approximately $60 million. Mr. Jacobson paused, reviewing the document before him. The room was silent, except for the ticking of grandfather's antique clock. I found myself holding my breath, though I had no expectations. Grandfather had given me something far more valuable than money over the years, his belief in me. To my granddaughter, Alicia Morgan Walker, Thompson Mr. Jacobson read formally, I leave the sum of $6.9 million. My sister gasped in delight. My father nodded approvingly, and my mother actually clapped her hands together once in satisfaction. I always knew Dad would do right by the successful child, my mother said, squeezing Alicia's hand. He recognized your hard work, darling. My sister was already whispering to her husband about investment strategies, barely containing her excitement. Their celebration felt premature as Mr. Prime Jacobson had not finished reading. To my grandson Creighton Thomas Walker, the attorney continued, and the room grew quiet again. My mother gave me a sympathetic look that contained zero actual sympathy. My father checked his watch. I leave the sum of $1. The silence shattered. My mother barked out a laugh quickly covered by her hand in mock politeness. My father did not bother hiding his smirk. Alicia had the decency to look momentarily uncomfortable before joining in their amusement. "Go earn your own," my mother said, eyes glittering with something close to triumph. "Some kids just do not measure up." I felt the words like physical blows, not because of the money. I never expected anything, but because this public humiliation confirmed what I had always suspected. My grandfather, my champion, had ultimately judged me a failure too. I stood on wooden legs intending to leave before they could see the devastation on my face. $1, less than the bus fare to get here. "Please sit down," Creighton Mr. Jacobson said firmly. "We are not finished." Before concluding, there is a letter that must be read according to Harold's explicit instructions. My mother waved dismissively. "We can handle any remaining details, Edward. No need to prolong this for Creighton's sake." "I am afraid I must insist," Mr. Jacobson said, pulling out a sealed envelope from his briefcase. Harold was adamant that this letter be read aloud with all family members present. My father sighed impatiently. "Fine. Read it so we can move on to the practical matters." Mr. Jacobson broke the seal and unfolded several pages covered in my grandfather's distinctive handwriting. He cleared his throat and began reading. "To my family, if this letter is being read, then two things have happened. First, I have passed on from this world. Second, you have reacted exactly as I predicted to my will." My parents exchanged confused glances. Alicia stopped typing on her phone. "For years I have watched with growing disappointment how this family has treated Creighton. My brave grandson who chose to follow his passion despite constant discouragement and outright hostility from his own parents." My mother's face flushed red. My father straightened in his chair. "What began as a simple test of character evolved into a distressing revelation of who my daughter and her husband have become. Let me explain. 5 years ago I began testing all of you without your knowledge." The room temperature seemed to drop. Mr. Jacobson continued reading steadily. "I arranged for Alicia to be presented with opportunities to help others at potential cost to herself. Anonymous requests for funding worthy causes, chances to mentor young professionals at her firm, even direct appeals for assistance from struggling family members." My sister's face had gone pale. In every single instance, she chose self-interest. Most disappointing was when she denied help to her cousin David's medical fundraiser while simultaneously spending $30,000 on a handbag. "That is not fair," Alicia protested. "I work hard for my money." Mr. Jacobson ignored her, continuing to read. Meanwhile, I observed Creighton giving his time, talent, and what little money he had to community art programs for underprivileged children. I watched him help fellow artists promote their work even when competing for the same gallery space. I saw him live his values daily, even when it cost him. I sat stunned, unable to process what I was hearing. But the most disturbing discovery came when I learned my daughter and her husband were aware of my tests. A family friend informed them 3 years ago. Rather than reflect on their values, they chose to coach Alicia on how to appear charitable while maintaining her greed. The performance was for my benefit, not from genuine character. My mother jumped to her feet. "This is outrageous. How dare you make these accusations?" "Diana, please sit down," Mr. Jacobson said calmly. "These are Harold's words, not mine. I will not sit through this character assassination," she shouted, lunging for the letter. Mr. Jacobson stepped back, continuing to read even as my mother grew more agitated. "And so I devised one final test. The will reading you have just experienced was itself the test. I predicted that Diana, Robert, and Alicia would react with cruelty and mockery toward Creighton upon hearing the initial distribution. If I am wrong, I apologize sincerely. But if my letter is being read, then my attorney has witnessed exactly the behavior I feared." My mother was now screaming incoherently. My father had risen, face dark with anger. "Therefore, I hereby invoke the secondary will document legally filed and witnessed which supersedes all previous distributions mentioned today." The room erupted into chaos. My mother lunged again for the letter, but Mr. Jacobson smoothly sidestepped her, while continuing to read grandfather's words. The true distribution of my estate is as follows. To my daughter Diana, her husband Robert, and my granddaughter Alicia, I leave $1 each. The symbolic amount they deemed appropriate for Creighton will now be theirs. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of purple. This is a sick joke. You cannot do this. To my grandson Creighton, Mr. Jacobson continued steadily. I leave the controlling interest in Walker Enterprises, including all subsidiaries, properties, and holdings, with an approximate value of $50 million. The words hung in the air like impossible bubbles. I could not process them. $50 million, controlling interest in grandfather's company. This had to be a mistake. Furthermore, Mr. Patskided, Jacobson read the art collection mentioned earlier includes not only my personal collection but a separate collection I have been building for the past 10 years, consisting of every piece of artwork created by Creighton that I could acquire. These works are currently stored in a climate-controlled facility and are independently appraised at $3.5 million. My sister made a strangled sound. My mother had gone from screaming to a deadly silence. Edward Jacobson has been instructed to serve as advisor until Creighton is comfortable assuming control of the business. A team of loyal executives is already briefed and prepared to assist in this transition. This is completely illegal, my father sputtered, lawyer instincts kicking in. We will challenge this immediately. Harold was clearly not of sound mind. Mr. Jacobson calmly set down the letter and opened his laptop. I anticipated this reaction. With Harold's permission, today's proceedings have been recorded. He turned the screen to show multiple camera feeds of the study. Additionally, I have 3 witnesses in the adjacent room who have observed everything. Harold was very thorough in ensuring this would withstand any legal challenge. My sister, always quick to adapt, rushed to my side. Creighton, I always believed in you, she said, grabbing my hand. We are family. We should stick together through this difficult time. The same sister who had laughed minutes earlier at my $1 inheritance. The transformation was as impressive as it was transparent. You can leave now, Mr. Jacobson told my parents and sister. My team will escort you out. Any further communication should go through our legal department. This is not over, my mother hissed at me. You cannot handle this responsibility. You will come crawling back when you have destroyed everything Father built. As they were led out, still protesting, I remained frozen in the chair, unable to comprehend how completely my life had just changed. Mr. Jacobson closed his laptop and sat in the chair next to me, no longer the formal attorney but something closer to a friend. Your grandfather was a remarkable man, he said quietly. We were friends for 40 years. He talked about you constantly. I do not understand, I finally managed. Why did he not just tell me? He wanted to be absolutely certain about everyone's true character. The performance your family has put on for years needed to be revealed for what it was. He placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Harold also wanted you to see that he recognized your worth all along, that someone truly saw you. We moved to the more comfortable chairs by the fireplace. Martha brought tea, giving me a warm smile that suggested she had known about this plan all along. There are some practical matters we should discuss, Mr. Jacobson said. Your grandfather left detailed instructions for the transition. Nothing needs to be decided immediately. I know nothing about running a company, I admitted, the panic starting to set in. Harold assembled a team of trusted advisors who do. Your role can be as involved or as removed as you wish. The business runs efficiently already. He handed me a leather journal with my name embossed on the cover. Harold kept this for years. Documentation of every interaction with your parents and sister, every conversation about you. He wanted you to understand that this decision was not made lightly or without evidence. As I took the journal, another realization hit me. The art collection. He bought my work. Mr. Jacobson nodded. Through various galleries and collectors, always anonymously. He was your most dedicated collector. Would you like to see the pieces? He led me to a room I had never entered before, unlocking it with a code. Inside, displayed with museum-quality lighting and climate control, was a comprehensive collection of my artistic journey. Student pieces, experimental works, every series I had completed. Some pieces I had believed were purchased by galleries or unknown collectors. He kept every piece of art you ever gave him, from childhood drawings to your most recent work, Mr. Jacobson explained. And when he realized your parents were undermining your confidence, he began acquiring everything else he could find. I stood surrounded by my life's work, valued and preserved by the one person who had truly believed in me. The tears came then for my grandfather, for the years of doubt, for the validation I had always sought. "There is one more thing, Mr. Jacobson said, handing me a sealed envelope with my name in grandfather's handwriting. "This is for you alone, when you are ready." 6 months passed in a whirlwind of learning and adjustment. I moved into the east wing of grandfather's home, converting several rooms into a proper studio filled with natural light. The rest of the house I began slowly renovating into a combination gallery and art education center. Walker Enterprises continued to thrive under the management team grandfather had assembled. I attended board meetings, learning the business gradually, while making it clear that our corporate focus would now include substantial support for the arts. My parents attempted legal challenges as threatened, but grandfather's preparation was flawless. After their third failed lawsuit, they retreated to their vacation home in Europe, releasing public statements about their concern for the family business under my stewardship. Alicia tried a different approach. First came tearful phone calls about family loyalty. When those failed, she launched a social media campaign painting herself as the victim of an eccentric old man's irrational decision. That backfired spectacularly when several of her former coworkers came forward with stories of her cutthroat business tactics and treatment of subordinates. The most surprising changes were within myself. The constant anxiety about paying rent and buying supplies had disappeared, but so had the need to prove my worth to people who would never see it. I found myself creating art with a new freedom, unencumbered by financial stress or the weight of parental disapproval. I established the Harold Walker Foundation for Young Artists, providing scholarships and mentorship to talented children from disadvantaged backgrounds. The first exhibition featuring these students became the most meaningful show I had ever been part of. New friendships developed with people who knew nothing of my wealth or family drama. Genuine connections based on shared interests and values. I dated occasionally, cautiously, still learning to trust that people could value me for myself. On the anniversary of grandfather's passing, I visited his grave with a small painting I had created specifically for him. A portrait of us together in his study, me at the easel, him watching with pride from his desk. "You changed everything," I told him, placing flowers beside the headstone. "Not just financially. You showed me what real support looks like." As I turned to leave, I noticed a familiar figure standing nearby. My sister, looking less polished than I had ever seen her. The designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. Her hair pulled back without the usual perfect styling. "Alicia," I acknowledged, surprised. "I was not sure you would be here," she said awkwardly. "I can go if you want." "It is fine," I said, genuinely curious about this version of my sister. "How are you?" "Honestly, not great." She looked down. "James left. The firm downsized me after the negative publicity. I have been doing some thinking about my life choices." In the past, I might have felt satisfaction at her reversal of fortune. Instead, I felt an unexpected compassion. Not because she deserved it, but because holding on to bitterness would only limit my own healing. "What will you do now?" I asked. "I do not know. Start over somehow." She hesitated. "Creighton, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I want you to know I am sorry. Truly sorry for how I treated you. For who I became." I studied her, looking for the manipulation I had grown used to detecting. Instead, I saw something unfamiliar in my sister's eyes. Humility. "The foundation needs an administrator," I said, surprising myself. "Someone good with numbers and organization. It is not glamorous, and the pay is modest, but it does good work. You would give me a job after everything." Her disbelief was genuine. "Not out of pity," I clarified, "and not unconditionally. You would start at the bottom, prove yourself like anyone else. But yes, I would give you the opportunity." 2 weeks later, she started work at the foundation, taking a tiny apartment nearby. Our relationship remained cautious, the damage of decades not erased by one conversation. But something new had begun, a possibility. My parents remained entrenched in their resentment, refusing all contact except through attorneys. I had come to accept that some relationships could not be salvaged, and that was okay. The most profound lesson from grandfather's final gift was not about money or even justice. It was the understanding that true wealth lay in integrity, in staying true to your passions, even when the world devalues them, and in using whatever resources you have to lift others. 1 year after the will reading, I found an unfinished painting in grandfather's studio, a landscape he had been working on before his health declined. I completed it alongside a talented 13-year-old student from the foundation program, our brushstrokes blending together across generations. Success is not measured in dollars earned, but in lives touched and beauty created. Grandfather knew that all along, and now so do I. Have you ever discovered that someone believed in you when you least expected it? How did it change your path? Share your story in the comments below. If this video resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories of unexpected turns and meaningful transformations. Thank you for listening. And remember that your worth is never determined by others. It was inside you all along.